What's up, ladies and gentlemen? I'm D.Knight, and let's enter Season 3.
Cause it's game time and I'm ready. Game time and I'm ready. Yeah, it's game time and I'm ready. Game time and I'm ready. Can't stop my hustle. No, you can't stop my shine. I ain't come to make no friends. I just came to get what's mine.
And we are back with the Orioles as we start Season 3, or 2021. So we had a magical run last season as we ended up winning the AL East and then went to the ALCS, but then lost to the eventual World Series champions, the New York Yankees. So we did end up making a couple of moves to try to get over that bump and hopefully able to put a stop to the Yankees winning ways. So we're going to continue, but for this episode, we are going to get a team preview, and then we're going to get through spring training and see who makes the team and who doesn't. Remember, now we are in the MLB The Show 20, so the roster has expanded to 26, so we're able to keep one more person. But let's take a look at the lineup and see who we have. So the projected batting order for the Orioles this year, we have Hinckley first, Smith at number 2, Mancini at number 3, Betts hitting cleanup, Moustakas right behind him, Reyno on the 6th spot, Hanser Alberto at 3rd base and at the 7th spot, Orlando Arcia at number 8, and Chance Sisco currently holding down the catcher. So hitting leadoff is going to be our first overall pick. He just kind of dominated in AAA. He hit .283, 13 home runs, 37 RBIs, and he got called up halfway through the year. This guy I'm very, very excited to see. He's probably not a prototypical leadoff hitter, but think George Springer here. I mean, he's got good speed. He's probably not going to be stealing anything, and he can add a little bit of power. So I'm excited to see what he does. At the 2 spot and playing in right field is going to be Dwight Smith, 79 overall, 28-year-old. This guy was pretty good last year and pretty good in the postseason as well. But last year he hit .277 with a .377 OBP, 23 home runs, 72 RBIs. He pretty much played himself into everyday lineup. His OPS 848, and that's what I really look for. That's the stat that really kind of convinces me. Then at the 3rd spot, we have first baseman Trey Mancini, the reigning AL MVP. He was absolutely lights out last year. He hit .324, 976 OPS, 39 home runs, 136 RBIs. This guy was an absolute stud, and I love him to death. Luckily, we have him signed for a very long time. Batting cleanup and actually playing in center field until we have somebody that proves me otherwise is going to be Mookie Betts, the 99 overall, 28-year-old. We ended up giving him a max contract. He ended up hitting .300 with a .942 OPS, 38 home runs, 103 RBIs. I think with the team that we currently have, he's going to be able to pretty much expand on those numbers a little bit. I mean, we will have to see, but this guy is a stud. Hitting in the 5th spot is going to be second baseman Mike Moustakas, the 32-year-old vet. Last year he hit .242, 771 OPS, 31 home runs, 104 RBIs, but didn't really show up during the playoffs, so I'm hoping that this season he can continue to stay hot all the way through. Playing in left field is going to be Renato Nunez, the 78 overall, 26-year-old. This guy was really, really good in the playoffs after I ended up putting him in. But last year he hit .279 with a 773 OPS, 9 home runs, 38 RBIs, and just 80 games. Kinda excited to see what he does with a full slate of games. At 3rd base, we plan on playing Hanser Alberto, the 76 overall, 28-year-old. This guy is a hitting machine. Last year he hit .289 with an 843 OPS, 10 home runs, 32 RBIs in just 83 games. Another guy that really kind of poured it on during the playoffs, so I'm hoping that he does very well this year with a full slate of games. And then there's our starting shortstop, Orlando Arcia, 79 overall, 26-year-old, but a potential. This guy has all the potential in the world. I'm just hoping he's starting to realize it. Last year he hit .271, 12 home runs, 61 RBIs, and had an OPS of 763. I think his bat's starting to turn around. We're going to give him as much playing time, and hopefully it continues to develop. At catcher is going to be our postseason hero, Chance Sisco, the 78 overall, 26-year-old. This guy really poured it on during the postseason, but last year was a little bit of a down season, and then there was a little bit of question marks if Adley Rutschman was going to get called up. But he hit .207 with 7 home runs, 31 RBIs, and a .583 OPS, but ended up hitting 4 home runs in the postseason in 2 series. So I kind of want to see what he does this year. And then on the bench, we do have former starter center fielder JT Riddle, the 71 overall 29-year-old. He's more of a utility player, so I'm kind of excited to have him so he can kind of plug and play each and every day if he needs to. But his stats last year were not as good as I was hoping. He had .238 with 17 home runs, 67 RBIs, and a .693 OPS. I mean, they're not terrible numbers, but as a starting center fielder, that's probably not what we want. Another former starter left fielder, DJ Stewart, the 71 overall 27-year-old. This guy kind of really struggled down the stretch, did not have the greatest season, so he might end up going into double or AAA and seeing if he can develop a little bit, but he hit .246, 13 home runs, 52 RBIs, and a .716 OPS. So he has a little bit ways to go, but maybe if we send him down, he'll develop a little bit better. And the only backup catcher we have on the 40-man roster is going to be Austin Wynns, the 69 overall 30-year-old. He didn't really get any playing time last year. We never really called him up because we had Pedro Severino. But his hitting just needs to kind of improve. I don't feel comfortable giving him a lot of at-bats. He had .205, 6 home runs, 35 RBIs last year for Norfolk. Hopefully, with a little bit more playing time in the majors, he can show me otherwise, or pretty much his time has run out. And the guy that I had high hopes for, but has yet to really ease my mind, is center fielder Cedric Mullins, 66 overall 26-year-old with A potential. Again, he just cannot get it done during his stints with Baltimore. Last year at Norfolk, he hit .235, 10 home runs, 45 RBIs. Really want to see this guy improve. I'm really hoping for a strong spring, and hopefully he can make the 40-man roster and possibly start in center field so we can move maybe back over to right. And then another center fielder who has actually more impressed me than Cedric Mullins is Austin Hayes, the 25-year-old 68 overall. This guy, I enjoy watching him play, but I haven't necessarily seen anything that is standing out. Last year in AA, he should have been in AAA, but we sent him to AA so he could get some playing time. He had .266, 9 home runs, 45 RBIs. So those numbers need to improve if he's going to make the big league club. And then we have speedy shortstop Richie Martin, the 72 overall 26-year-old. This guy, again, I have high hopes for, but I just don't see it happening. Last year in AAA, he hit .214, 6 home runs, 36 RBIs. Those stats are not going to get him to the big league club. And then former utility player Stevie Wilkerson, the 69 overall 29-year-old. I love this guy, but he just didn't necessarily perform all that well when he had his opportunity last year. He hit .240, 2 home runs, 12 RBIs, 645 OPS. He really needs to improve on those numbers if he's going to continue to be a utility guy for the big league club. And then the last guy who can end up making that 40-man roster is going to be Rio Ruiz, the 26-year-old 71 overall third baseman. He has really good hitting attributes, but can't seem to put it together in a full AAA season. Last year he hit .234, 9 home runs, 38 RBIs. Need this guy to continue to progress, and maybe he can make the big league club as a bench bat. And now we head over to the pitchers. As you see, our projected starting rotation currently has Mike Minor as the ace, John Means number 2, Julio Teheran at number 3, Gabriel Yanoa number 4, and Kyle Gibson number 5. So the current ace of our staff is going to be 33-year-old 84 overall starting pitcher Mike Minor. 6'4", 210. He's had plenty of MLB service going on. Last year he was 17-8 with a 2.97 ERA and a 1.2 WHIP. I'm hoping that he can come close to those numbers again this year. We have a killer lineup. All he needs to do is give up 3-4 runs. We should have a win every game. And then we have former ace starting pitcher John Means, the 27-year-old 84 overall. This guy was actually pretty dang good. He was actually in the Cy Young race for the AL, which is in crazy shape, but then kind of choked in the postseason, so he went out and got some people. But he was 16-9 with a 2.7 ERA, 1.13 WHIP. This guy can be a contributor. I'm hoping he continues to develop and gets even better, and hopefully is our ace of the future. And then at the third spot, we ended up grabbing Julio Teheran, the 30-year-old vet who is 81 overall. Just another guy that I want to see kind of continue to develop. He didn't really play a lot last year for Atlanta. He was 6-1, had a save, had 3 holds, 3.42 ERA, 1.22 WHIP. He's a starter for us, so I'm hoping he's able to contribute and be a very good starting pitcher mind for us. And then at the 4th spot is Gabriel Ynoa, the 26-year-old, 82 overall. This guy was fantastic last year and really good in the postseason as well. He was 15-7 with a 3.39 ERA and a 1.3 WHIP. I have high hopes for this guy, and hopefully being in the number 4 spot, it gets a little bit easier matchups. And then at the 5 spot, we have former ace and free agent signing. He didn't really necessarily come into his own. Kyle Gibson, 33 years old, 78 overall. He was 12-12 last year with a 3.64 ERA and a 1.33 WHIP. Started out very, very cold, but at the end of the season really started putting it together and did very well in the postseason. And fighting for that 5th spot is going to be Aaron Brooks, the 30-year-old who's 72 overall. He had a great year last year. He was 12-7 with a 3.76 ERA and 1.14 WHIP, and did very well in the postseason as well. So it's kind of weird that he's kind of been kicked out of the rotation currently, but I want to see how he does in spring training. If he needs to develop a little bit, he goes down to AAA. And then we also have Dylan Bundy, the 28-year-old, 76 overall guy. He pretty much struggled for the Orioles when he came up. He was 1-3 with a 6.1 ERA. But last year for AAA, he was 11-7, 3.13 ERA, 1.25 WHIP. This is his last chance to make this team, or he's pretty much trade bait. And then also vying for a rotation spot is going to be 27-year-old, 74 overall pitcher David Hess. Again, a guy that pretty much does what he needs to do. I mean, last year he was 0-1 with a 2.16 ERA, 0.84 in the call-up phase. Last year for AAA, 9-6, 3.36 ERA, 1.14 WHIP. The WHIP numbers are great. I'm still paying attention to you, Hess. Let's see what you got. And for the bullpen as our long reliever, we are going to probably be sticking with Ty Block. Middle relievers are probably going to be Tommy Hunter, Dylan Tate, Castro, maybe Ramos, depending, Blyer, Vizcaino, and Michael Givens as the closer. So starting at the top is closing pitcher Michael Givens, the 30-year-old, 88 overall. This guy was dominant in the 9th inning last year. He had 52 saves, a 3.45 ERA, 1.25 WHIP. But he did end up blowing 8 saves, which is not what I'm kind of looking for. He needs to really shore up the back end of that bullpen. The guy slated as our setup guy is going to be Aronis Vizcaino, the 30-year-old, 80 overall man. He pitched to a tune of 1.79 ERA and a 1.15 WHIP with 42 saves last year for the Mariners. So I'm kind of excited to see what he does in the setup role. He might end up taking over closer duties depending on Michael Givens' struggles. Our top left-handed reliever is going to be 33-year-old, 77 overall, Richard Blyer. This guy was an absolute dominant pitcher when he pitched. He was 1-1, 3 saves, but 0.88 ERA with a 0.52 WHIP. He was dominant. Postseason, he got beat up a little bit, but I'm kind of excited to see what he does for this year, and hopefully he's able to continue that trend. He has a career ERA of 1.72. Yo. Another guy that was bumped from the setup role, but I think can really be good in the middle innings, is going to be 26-year-old, 71 overall, Miguel Castro. Just a dominant arm for us. Last year he was 1-1. He did end up having 3 saves with 3.12 ERA and a 1.5 WHIP. He was pretty good in the postseason as well, so I have high hopes for him. And then we have 34-year-old vet, 77 overall, Tommy Hunter. He's going to be in the middle innings again this year. Last year was kind of a meh year. He had a 3.87 ERA, 1.32 WHIP with a 4-4 record. He just, I don't know, he's getting up there in age. His overall starting to drop, but I'm keeping my close eye on him. And then we also have 26-year-old, 74 overall, D.Knight. Guy that just kind of did what he needed to do last year. He was pretty dominant. He was 3-3 with 3.44 ERA, 1.4 WHIP. I'm really excited to see what he does for year 2. That's what we're expecting. Greatness. Let's do it. And then we also have 28-year-old, 75 overall, Edebrey Ramos. A guy that actually has probably the filthiest stuff in the back of our bullpen, but his control is a little bit off. He was 7-3 last year with a 6.22 ERA, 1.97 WHIP. If he struggles during the spring training, he can find himself in AAA. And then as our long reliever, we have game 163 stud Ty Blach, 30 years old, 73 overall. A guy that was kind of an afterthought through the whole season, but when he got his playing time was absolutely lights out. He was 2-0. 1.57 ERA, 1.08 WHIP. I kind of want to get him in that long reliever role and see what he does this year, and hopefully he has another great year. Vying to make the bullpen this year is 26-year-old, 65 overall Hunter Harvey, a potential guy, but again, I don't see if he's ready for the big leagues or not. He just can't seem to get it together down in the minors. But for Norfolk, he was 8-9 with a 3.98 ERA and a 1.37 WHIP. I'm keeping my close eye on him during spring training. I kind of want him to make this team because I want to see how well he can do. And then we also have Norfolk's closer, 26-year-old, 75 overall, Tanner Scott, a guy with just a huge freaking arm. But again, just can't really get it together down there in the minors. But he had a really good year last year, 44 saves, 2.51 ERA, 1.2 WHIP. He might be the heir apparent to Richard Blyer on a lefty-lefty domination. And then we also have Norfolk's setup man, 30-year-old, 77 overall, Sean Gilmartin. A guy that continues to do well, but when he got called up last year, did not have the greatest ERA. He had 1 save, 3-2, 2.7 ERA, 1.14 WHIP in AAA. Kind of want to see what he does. He's kind of on the cutting block currently. And then we also have relief pitcher Paul Fry, 28 years old, 75 overall lefty. A guy that really can kind of dominate lefties, but last year he ended up going down from AAA to AA, but then dominated at AA. He was 0-0 with a .87 ERA and a .87 WHIP. So we have to see how he does in AAA before we can really kind of get a gauge on how well he's going to do in the majors. Now let's talk about some of our top prospects by MLB.com in the Pipeline Prospects segment. Let's see who we got. Starting off here with our first round selection last year is going to be center fielder Chris Cheek. 23-year-old, 75 overall. This guy is pretty much MLB ready at this point. He's number 3 on their list. He had 324, 6 home runs, 21 RBIs last year for Delmarva. He's going to get his chance at AA this year and possibly even end up in AAA. And then we also have number 11 prospect, Adley Rutschman, the catcher, 23-year-old, 75 overall. There was speculation I was going to call him up this year, but we're not going to. I want to see him continue to do well down there in Norfolk. He had 288, 2 home runs, 9 RBIs, and that was kind of a half a season. I want to see how he does in a full season. And our best pitching prospect is number 48 on the list. It's going to be Grayson Rodriguez, 21-year-old, 71 overall. He was 2-5 last year, 2.69 ERA, 1.52 WHIP in Norfolk. But again, he started in Bowie, moved up to Norfolk. I want to see how he does in a full season at AAA. And then a guy that we've been waiting for many years and still hasn't necessarily impressed me is third baseman Ryan Mountcastle, 23-year-old, 70 overall. He is number 54 on the list. He hit 226, 4 home runs, 36 RBIs. Kind of wanted him to be up already, but if he can't do it, he can't do it. Let's give him another year. And then number 65 on the list is starting pitcher Luis Gohara, 24-year-old, 68 overall guy. just a guy that still has a very low overall for us. But in Double-A, he was 10-9 with a 3.46 ERA, 1.12 WHIP. He might end up moving up to Triple-A this year and see how he does. And then number 71 is shortstop Sergio Fiera, 22-year-old, 62 overall guy. He ended up getting hurt for the entire season other than 1 month. But in that 1 month, he looked awfully good. He hit .303, 2 home runs, 10 RBIs. Let's hope for no injuries this year and see how he does. And then at number 87 is right fielder Yusniel Diaz, 24-year-old, 74 overall. Guy that has been hammering AAA pitching each and every year. He hit .283, 14 home runs, 51 RBIs. This guy, I'm kind of excited. He might end up getting his chance this year if there's any struggles on our team whatsoever. Now, with that all said and done, it is time to go into spring training and see what we end up doing and check out any player stats. We are going to go through all of spring training, and then we are going to check the stats afterwards. And then any cuts or send downs that I do, I'm going to let you guys know. So what we need to do is go through the first 5 games, because I go through 5 games and then I switch everybody around so they get a little bit more playing time. So it's kind of an even field. So let's head over to number 5 here and sim up through. So we're 2-3 after 5 games. Not the best. Let me go switch things around. Alright, so let's go through the next 5 games here and see if we're able to finish up just a little bit better than 2-3. And at 3-7 now. Good grief. We have the Rays coming up next. Let's switch everything around again. Alright, so next 5 games. Let's see if we have a little bit better luck. So we are 5-10 so far in spring training. Not a good look. Now back at it. Let's go 5 more. Whoops, kind of messed that up there a little bit. Okay, 6-14, but I mean, we're switching in and out. Let's switch back to our backups. Alright, let's go 5 more here. Boom. And then we have 2 extra to see if there's anybody that's on the brink. So let me take a look, let me dive in a little bit, and then we'll get through the final 2. Alright, so for the final 2, we decided that we were going to put Dylan Bundy on the bump with Aaron Brooks as well. Yanoa has struggled, so he's actually going to be starting in AAA. So I'm kind of trying to figure out who that 5th starter is going to be this year. So let's sim over to the finishing of spring training. So we ended up finishing 10-17. Not the best, but I mean, we were kind of moving in and out of our really regular guys, and the CPU doesn't do it. But let's take a look at the stats, and then we'll figure out if who we're going to be moving down and not other than Yanoa. So for the lineups, Hinckley actually got the most playing time, but he only hit 197, 4 home runs, 10 RBIs. A little bit of a struggle bus, but when it starts counting, that's when I'm going to start making a decision on him. Dwight Smith, 298, 1 RBI. Again, hitting lights out, but I guess no opportunities to hit in Hinckley. Trey Mancini, 306, 4 home runs, 12 RBIs. We get it, you're good. Mookie Betts, 421, 4 home runs, 9 RBIs. We get it, you're even better. Mike Moustakas, 218, 1 home run, 4 RBIs. That's probably right where he usually is. I mean, I kind of want to improve now since we've made a pretty good team. Reno didn't have the best, 213, 1 home run, 5 RBIs. Hanser Alberto actually went super cold. He was hitting over 300 for the majority of spring training, but hit 222, 1 home run, 4 RBIs. I doubt he's going to get bumped from third base though, but we'll have to see. Arcia, 203, 4 home runs, 7 RBIs. Average still not great, but great power this spring. I like that. Chance Cisco, 203, 2 home runs, 6 RBIs. So he kind of fell more back into his season, but at least he had a 2 home run spring training. As for the bench, Richie Martin, 163, 2 RBIs. Again, not what we're looking for. Stevie Wilk, 163, 2 RBIs. It's going to be the first season he's going to be in AAA. Rio Ruiz, 191, 1 home run, 4 RBIs. JT Riddle even struggled, 182. DJ Stewart, 229, 1 home run, 4 RBIs. Maybe trying to make a case there for Reno's spot. Wins 237, home run, 2 RBIs. He actually pretty much outperformed Cisco there, so Cisco's got a little bit of a hot seat. Cedric Mullins, 257, home run, 3 RBIs. I do believe he's going to be making the roster because that's actually really good numbers for him. Austin Hayes, so close, 208, 1 home run, 3 RBIs. So he'll probably be in AAA to start the season. As for the pitchers, Mike Minor kind of disappointed a little bit this spring, but I mean, it's spring. He was 1-2 with a 4.24 ERA, 1.41 WHIP. I'm hoping he's able to improve on that during the regular season. John Means, excellent, 0-2 with a 3.38 ERA, 1.31 WHIP. Julio Teheran, 0-2, 3.46, 1.62. So not a bad spring for him. Yanoa absolutely got destroyed in 9 innings pitched. He was 0-2 with a 13 ERA and 2.33 WHIP. He's going to be starting in AAA this year. Gibson looked pretty sharp, 1-0, 3.75 ERA, 1.58 WHIP. And bullpen and slash guys that are going for the rotation. Ty Block did what Ty Block does, 0-1, 3.14 ERA, 0.77 WHIP. That'll get him in. Dylan Bundy ended up getting crushed there, his final 2 games that he ended up pitching. 0-2, 5.6 ERA, 1.42 WHIP. But I did see glimpses of hope, so he might not be traded. He's probably just going to be going to AAA. Hunter Harvey was excellent. I'm not sure what I'm going to be doing with him, but a 2.08 ERA and a 1.08 WHIP might be enough to make this big league club. Tommy Hunter, not the best, 1-1 with a 4 ERA, 1.22 WHIP. Dylan Tate ended up getting just rocked. He might end up starting in AAA this year. 7.11 ERA, 1.89 WHIP. Castro looked sharp, 1-0, 1.64 ERA, 1.27 WHIP. Edebrey looked really good as well, 0-1 with a 2.25 ERA, 1.31 WHIP. Not too many walks this spring. That's what I was looking for. Richard Blyer in 6 innings, 3 ERA, 0.83 WHIP. He does what he always does. Vizcaíno looked great, 4 innings with a 2.25 ERA and 1 WHIP. And Michael Givens, a little bit of the struggle bus again. 3 1/3, 5.4 ERA, 1.8 WHIP. You better be looking out for Vizcaíno. David Hess really impressed me though this spring, so he's going to be knocking on the door of a rotation spot or long reliever. He was 1-1 with a 1.8 ERA, 1.3 WHIP. Sean Gilmartin looked pretty good, 7 1/3, 1.23 ERA, 0.82 WHIP. Aaron Brooks, my man, he always comes through, I swear. 1-2, 1.13 ERA, 0.88 WHIP. That's probably going to get him that 5th rotation spot. Paul Fry didn't look bad in 7 2/3 with a 2.35 and a 0.78. And Tanner Scott looked really good at the beginning and then ended up just imploding on himself once again. He was 1-0 with a 5.06 ERA, 1.75 WHIP. So now we have to do the send downs and pretty much figure out our rotation and our lineup and our big league club. So after I'm done that, I will share the opening day lineup with you guys and the rotation and bullpen. So I'll see you guys in a sec. So here's going to be the opening day roster for the lineups. We do have Hinckley, Smith, Mancini, Betts, Moose, Nunez, Alberto, Arcia, and Cisco. And then bench, we have utility. JT Riddle is going to be there. DJ Stewart is going to be there. Austin Wynns is the backup catcher, obviously. And our surprise is going to be Cedric Mullins. He is going to be our backup outfielder. Kind of excited to see what he does. Maybe he's able to kind of take over the center field spot and actually surprise me. And for the pitchers, our starting rotation going into the first week is going to be Mike Minor with Means, Teheran, Gibson, Aaron Brooks as the 5th. So a little bit of a shakeup there. Good job to Aaron Brooks. Ty Block, Hunter Harvey are going to be our long relievers. Our middle relievers are going to be Tommy Hunter, Miguel Castro, Edebrey Ramos, Richard Blyer. Our setup is going to be Aradis Vizcaíno with Michael Givens closing it out. So that's where we're going to end up leaving this episode, and then when we come back, we will start the season. And we got an opening day matchup against the Tampa Bay Rays and Blake Snell, so should be super exciting. And then we'll get through the first month of the season, and hopefully we're able to really put some pressure on the Yankees, or maybe even get ourselves another AL East crown. But thanks again for watching, and as always, stay frosty, and I'll see you in the next episode. D.Knight, out.
They thought it was a game till I came back with that win. Over time, I've been working, now I'm back at it again. Now we finished what you thought that was the